You know you've made it when you are level 81 and you finally get your first divine orb dropped. Wonderful moment. Yeah, I'm mapping now. What up? Sly here, back on Path of Exile 2. A lot of fun seeing how the end game now opens up now that I've had a lot of opportunity to have some time to dig into the end game maps and just look into the variety. So much more potent upgrade materials in addition to all of the more juicier drops that you're getting at the higher levels now. Endgame has been a source of some cool moments and some last minute frustrations. As a new player, I'm enjoying the experience for Path of Exile 2. The endless repairability of the Atlas makes endgame hunting or as hardcore as I want it to be. Delirium, Breachstones, plenty of long-term goals to progress towards, and the short-term goals that I have as well in regards to just attaining a better ring or an amulet or better chest beats, that kind of ARPG type shit. Not gonna lie, there is so much to do that I don't concern myself with the end game boss fights, like the higher levels. That's gonna happen when it happens, but covering the map in itself, trying to maximize tower, that's actually pretty fun. Mapping is fun. There's generally a lot of variety and flexibility with how I want to go about it. But there are some quirks and some mechanics that I feel go against the overall gameplay flow, especially considering it's 2025. The original Path of Exile coming out actually in 2013. Playing this game on a longer term has made me realize some shortcomings and just quality of life that can go a long way as to making the game a much more approachable and just fun long term. Just not to pick on the game, but just little things that can absolutely help improve the gameplay flow. I've forgotten about leveling due to the massive amount of XP needed at higher levels. That's actually not a problem, as I've plenty to look into, as stated earlier, in regard to powering up my build. So many options. Regal orbs now are a bit more common. With Exalt orbs being a bit more uncommon, I can actually start to see them a bit more than usual. Saying that to say, every loot for me is still worth looking into. Every drop a chance at increasing my power or defense, even if it's just a little. Or some fresh drop with stats I can work to improve on later. That's heavy, as I'm in no rush to complete the map. I'm not even sure that's possible, but I am hunting enemy after enemy for drops, and that's always a good look going from map to map. Solid loop. So, it was good to get the token to acquire more ascendancy points. I had to go back to the Trial of Secumus. Again, I forgot about leveling, so when this dropped, it was a great opportunity to really power up my build. The last 2 ascendancy points I unlocked gave me a massive surge in power, so another 2 would OD the same. Plus, my build is a bit more tailored, so 1 to 2 shot and bosses is easy, so it should be a simple detour, right, for a massive power boost. Sounds great. However, I noticed when I redid Cruel difficulty, there was no direct way to get to the Trial of Secumus during my campaign playthrough. No opening to go directly to the trials when I was clearing everyone during every map during the campaign run. Whatever, no big deal. I see the cursor on the right side, and this was after I beat the game. I got my people in the hideout, so I was able to just go there no problem. So I'm going back in the trials and I'm doing my thing. I'm killing wave after wave. I get through the first 10 floors, 10 waves, and I beat the first boss like it's nothing. I fought that fool before, no worries. However, there was a second boss I had to fight, in addition to another 10 floors, which I expected, to get the third set of ascendancy points. First time fighting a sucker, but I beat them no problem. It was a set of sentinels in regard to the second fight. So I actually thought that I would get my points then, but it would not allocate them to me when I approached the altar, which I thought something was kind of wrong. Never fought those 2 bosses before, and there was a whole light up ceremony to convey that I pretty much won, and obviously the door opened up for me to enter into the room to collect the rewards, but I was not able to claim my ascendancy points. After a few minutes of prodding around, I noticed that there is a door all the way down on the right side for another test. Another one. I just did 20 waves, and I'm like, okay, I have to do more just to get 2 points. I take a little sigh, and I'm just like, all right, cool. My honor is okay, so I figured I could maybe do this. Another 10 and a boss, because I just did 20, so there's no reason to back out now. With no good drops, not that it would matter as my base inventory limit is low, considering the size of my armor and weapons and all the trinkets. Please note that I couldn't portal back to town or I'd fail the trial, so I was stuck with just my limited inventory size and being pretty much selective with what I was trying to pick up. So at this point, I'm already 30 minutes in, easy. I decided to just finish it. I go into this third door and I see another altar, another set of 10 trials, and I just go for it. Another one. All 30 floors, no problem. I'm on it. Then I get to the final boss, Ashar the Sand Mother. I mistimed one of her jumps and that pretty much spelled my doom if I got hit again. It took that much honor out of that hit. I did my best to try to hit her, but she was spraying some wild poison, and again, it's my first time fighting her, so I couldn't predict her, and my honor pretty much ran out. Not my health or my mana, my honor. I would like to have a conversation about this honor system. I dislike it so much. Managing your health and mana is enough with the hordes of enemies, the different damage types, immunities, etc. The honor system is a unnecessary mechanic that it can be depleted by taking any damage from a random bump, random enemy pool spawn of poison, blood, whatever. It's something that it's very ridiculous, as any type of enemy damage can do damage to it, and there are very few ways to organically recover honor unless you have that lucky room that grants you some. But again, with this tier and thinking about all the modifiers and just the boons and afflictions that you get, it gets a bit difficult. For example, there's tiles that allow it where you can't see what type of room that you're going in, so you don't even know if you're getting a boon or an affliction. So going to 30 floors is, in terms of all these modifiers and every door on top of that, that gets a bit massive. And please note, I'm not speaking specifically about the difficulty. You can just over level, farm other areas in the Endgame Atlas map and come back to it, especially if you failed a few times through trial and error. And that's more the point, the time investment. You have to farm a token. You have to spend time doing all those floors. It can be upwards of 30 minutes to an hour, depending on your clear level. There's a lot of time just being invested getting back into the trials. Honor is just, it'd be easy to just replace it with a timer or even a kind of kill count, like keep your kill count high. I'm not too sure what the best way to, aside from just regular surviving, the difficulty level and enough should be sufficient, but the honor on top of that with addition to those modifiers is crazy, and it's kind of detrimental to the gameplay flow, because there's no, most builds, especially melee builds, they're going to go in and try to trade damage. It's very few ways to duck armor unless you're a ranged character altogether. So I feel that I'm playing on Amazon, so it's not too bad. I'll go in, I'm going to level up some more. I'm 80 plus now, so it should be nothing to do a level 68 trial to get 2 points. But just thinking about melee characters, anyone who wants to try to do it at level, it's going to be a hell of a time just to survive that, and it's not pleasant, especially considering the time spent doing 20, 30 floors. It's wild. So yeah, the trial of Secumus was a bit unfortunate, but luckily getting into mapping was a slow and steady experience. It took a minute, but after I unlocked my first tower, I started to see some of the vision that GGG was getting at with regard to the end game. Customizing the difficulty to get drops the way I prefer is very convoluted, as there are a lot of new drops at endgame, from waystones, tablets, delirium, in addition to higher level gems and equipment. Carrying things became a rare luxury. I didn't have time to keep going back to the tower and back again, as I wanted to prioritize completing the map and just keeping that gameplay flow. Again, the limited inventory in comparison to what I want to have with me and the drops that are available to pick up from the ground was really small. The inventory size needs a big improvement, if I'm being honest. Yeah, like playing Skyrim or Fallout, I can deal with the game's version of being encumbered, but then I start thinking about the playstyle in a long play sense. What I was thinking about in terms of helping, in terms of quality of life with the inventory, is having a separate inventory stash or menu for the crafting materials. For example, the distilling ire or regal shards, not exactly having them in the stash, but having access to that in your actual inventory. So when you have 10, it can convert to, if you have 10 regal shards, it can automatically convert to a regal orb, but without actually taking up space. It's a crafting type of material that you really can't do anything with aside from having 10 to create that orb. That's just one kind of flexible kind of fix, but if I'm being honest, the inventory system overall needs to be adjusted or changed with the release for Path of Exile 2. And that's because of Path of Exile 1. POE1 is a free-to-play game. You can buy stash tabs and essentially expand your inventory if you choose to invest that way. It's a free-to-play title, so you have that luxury. Path of Exile 2 is a paid title. Early access, yes, but this is a product that GGG is charging for. So it makes me wonder if there's any option or opportunity for additional in-game inventory expansions. The concept is not foreign at all. Even games as old as Resident Evil 4, the original, had options where you can upgrade your inventory stash in your briefcase. I know it's a different genre, different in terms of survival horror versus ARPG, but in regard to the Atlas, the Endgame, it's not unusual, or it would be okay for that inventory space to be a drop or a reward from a boss, especially if you're endgame farming. It can be just one of the things to help make that quality of life more convenient. Not stash, but your actual inventory, increasing that size. The reason why I'm saying that is because the warrior, I believe, has a access to that through an ascendancy node, so it's not foreign to have a universal way of applying that to the characters overall. This isn't me trying to more or less ask for some free stuff. That's not the intention. I'm thinking about this in regard to the overall convenience, especially with the amount of maps and just the overall size of the Atlas tree altogether. It would be a huge convenience with regard to expanding that inventory. And more importantly, another thing that I thought that was, this is not even a major issue, but I was just looking at this as kind of archaic. The wisdom scrolls, you have to identify items, and I was wondering why. Shouldn't you be able to just look at the loot and determine if you want to keep it or not and put it in your inventory? I feel like having that scroll and then having to identify it, sometimes you don't have it. It's also a drop that still drops in endgame Atlas, and I'm just like, why? At this point, there should be some way to auto-identify at this point, especially again with that limited inventory. We're not able to carry so much, so what's the point of having to also identify it as well? Don't get me wrong, I do like the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. That does make me think that there's a surge in power, but still I should be able to see those stats regardless of having this wisdom scroll. If I'm being honest, I think that wisdom scroll is a bit archaic. It would work on a free-to-play title to extend the gameplay to not make it so instantaneous. But again, with POE2 being a paid title, I'm not sure that it works all throughout the game. I can understand that in the beginning of the campaign playthrough to kind of get you used to the flow. But when you're at the end game, you already have an idea of what you want to get. You're still checking loot, but I feel like this would make that process much more fluid, much more practical. So yeah, that's my kind of gripe in regard to just inventory. I think that needs to be looked at and adjusted or tweaked in a way where it's just more convenient for people, because picking up loot is part of the fun part of POE2. You know, I like killing the monsters, I like gaining loot, checking with the stats, modifying it. That's what the game is about. So having the option or opportunity to carry more loot back to your hideout is key. And regarding the Trial of Secumus, I need to be clear. There was one last part that really pissed me off, and that was after I got done losing to the boss. Basically, I got put back at the very start of the trial, not the start of the 20 to 30 floors. I got put back at the very beginning. I had to go back to the first floor to redo this entire thing again. I think there was some sort of indication, notification that said that I can respawn from like the 20th wave, but I didn't see that when I was pretty much checking all around the trial area. And I also checked online at this point just to make sure I wasn't tripping, and it was pretty much confirmed. I don't know anyone who was able to restart closer to the boss. They had to restart from the beginning. So doing 30 floors definitely put me over the hour mark, and that was a frustrating thing to have to do it again, not because I got KO due to my mana and health dropping, but because of this honor system thing. And that was just it kind of made me not want to do it unless I'm over level where it'll just be easy and something I can just auto walk through. And I don't think that that's a fun gameplay loop if there's no challenge, where you're just doing it just to get it done and not have to really worry about it again. And that's how I feel about the Trial of Secumus right now. I'm going to go on to the Trial of Chaos as well. Again, my build is powerful, so I can get it done. I just sucks where if you have that one little mistake or that one BS attack that messes up your honor, you got to start from the beginning if it KOs you. So yeah, just a minor thing, but what do you all think? What do you guys think about the inventory? I know a lot of POE1 players probably are used to it, but I've always wondered, especially considering other titles and the way that they can customize. Even Last Epoch has a way of putting crafting materials in a separate type of inventory location, separate from the equipment and weapons that you have. So I'm curious on what you all think about the inventory size. Do you feel like it's okay? You feel like it should be increased? Or you think the stash options is just where it should be at? And the Trial of Secumus, yeah, I'm gonna do it again. That's no problem, but I'm not gonna lie, that is my least preferred game mode right now. I appreciate everybody tuning in. This is just an ongoing kind of feedback for Path of Exile 2 as a new player, just kind of officially getting into Endgame and cruising around. Right now I'm on tier 12, and I plan on being by tier 15 by the next video. So hope you all stay tuned, and appreciate you liking and possibly subscribing as we got more on the way. Cheers.